Welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam Smith, and today we continue and finish off the battle against Pazis. We have two of these expansion characters going up against this monster, currently at 5 HP on the track. Excited to see how this pans out. And of course, this monster has a very unique ability, being able to try and escape and flee. And that's something we're going to have to try and avoid from happening, and aim to try and take its health down to 0 to get the victory. Let's go ahead and dive right into the battle. We're going to pick it up exactly where I left it off in part number 1. If you haven't checked out that video, I'll put a link to it in the top right-hand corner. We are currently halfway through round number 2 on the track here. We've already gone ahead with Karah, and we've already done her turn. We're now moving over to Heleren, who's going to go right now. As most of you remember, at the tail end of part number 1, the monster turned towards the aggro character, which is currently Karah up north, which leaves Heleren in the left side sector, which is a flank position, meaning at the very beginning of her turn, when we're doing start of turn effects, we're going to have a behavior trigger right off the hop. And it's going to be this one right here. The behavior we got is called Frenzied Assault. This is coming at us. Pazis is going to gain struggle tokens based on the number of characters in play. So it's going to be 2 struggle tokens. Then the active player, which is going to be Heleren, is going to be suffering damage based on the stance card unless revealing a green dodge card from their hand. Now, as I mentioned during the tail end of part number 1, I placed 2 blue maneuver cards but didn't take struggle tokens off of the monster. So what we're going to do is retroactively take them off right now, because there'll be no gameplay impact whatsoever. So 2 struggle tokens would be being placed based on this behavior card, but we're not going to place them because this should actually be at 1, which means the 2 we're getting right now just brings it right back to 3. So we're all squared away, and for those that are a little confused, basically there was 2 spots during part number 1 where I used blue maneuver cards, and when you place those cards, which are these ones, into your sequence, you automatically are able to remove a struggle token. I just basically missed that twice, which actually happens quite often with me for some weird reason. It's like the one rule in the game that I can't seem to lock away in my brain. The second half of Frenzied Assault says that if we have a green card in hand and we can reveal it, which we certainly can because we have 2 here for the active player, we are not going to have to deal with any damage coming from the stance card. So we basically reveal one of these green cards, which we have, and we do not take damage. The behavior card's resolved. There's no rampage occurring because I don't have that icon in the dashboard of the monster. So I've gone ahead and discarded the card we just resolved and placed a new one out. This one's going to trigger based on us using a red card to attack in our sequence. Heleren's going to choose to move in order to avoid the threatened token, which of course would be bad because, as we saw here from this card in the middle, it tells us as a permanent, when a player becomes threatened, they suffer damage. So as long as we keep moving, we can avoid that threatened token for the time being, which is good. We'll go ahead and discard this card from hand for its stamina in the bottom left-hand corner for 1. That's going to allow me to get some movement going. Both of our characters are now in the north sector, which is good for healing, bad for the behavior card, which will eventually trigger when one of them starts their turn. Here's a look at the cards that I have remaining in my hand. We got lots on the defensive side of the equation in terms of dodging. We have a maneuver card here, and we have this one, which is kind of nice because it allows me to discard any number of cards from my hand, and I can draw back up until I have 3 total. So if I'm not liking this hand of cards, I could technically force myself to turf all these cards in order to draw back up, hoping for better things. I want to go more on the offensive this time around versus focusing on defense. I'm going to go ahead and start my sequence off with Ready to Shine. This one's going to cost 1 stamina. I'm going to go ahead and discard one of the cards. It's not going to matter too much because this card's going to allow me to discard a whole bunch of things from my hand anyway. So this one here, 1 stamina, pays for this one going in the discard pile. And also, it's worth mentioning that I have 2 left. I'm going to discard both of these. I'm going to make sure, though, that this one right here is actually on the very top of the discard pile, because while it's in the discard pile, if it's on the very top, it actually counts as part of your sequence for help against the attrition at the very top there when we pull it later on. So it actually counts as if it's in the sequence, even though it's in the discard pile. Pretty cool. So I'm throwing those all in there as it states on the card here. I can discard any number of cards, which is why I paid 1 stamina and then turfed all my cards in order to draw 3 cards back up, because that's the maximum I can do. I can draw until I have 3, so I'll pull 3 cards off the top. And we did happen to get a red one, which is awesome. That means I'll be able to put at least 1 attack against this monster. I ended up getting a lot of 0-cost cards, which is great in terms of playing them into my sequence. I got Strafing, Fire Cascade, and Swift Deflection. Let's play a red attack card into my sequence. This is Fire Cascade. We're not going to be able to take advantage of the reclaim here because we don't currently have those 2 symbols with 2 reds up to this point, but that's okay. I'm still going for the attack itself. I'm going to get 4 base damage from my ocean gun. I'm not going to get anything for the ignite because that only triggers if I actually spend bullets, which I don't currently have any anyway because I burnt them all from the very first round. You can get cards through her deck, which will allow her to reload. Once we start doing that, it'll actually work towards not only giving us more bullets to use, as you saw prior, for different benefits, but also work towards our mastery and getting that complete, because when you reload, you get to place a counter on here. Once we have 2, we can master her card. So for now, 4 damage, not bad at all. That's going to equal up to a total of 8 damage on stance 2. 4 damage being added will take away 1 here, which will allow us to place a 5, so we get 8 damage. The toughness of this monster is now at a 10 for stance 2, which is unfortunate, so we don't get the wound right now because we can't actually cash in any of the damage for a wound at the moment, but we're working our way towards getting that next wound, which will get us to 4, and if we do get to 4, we get to change to stance number 3. The enemy will then progress to its 3rd stage. It's not all good news, though. The monster's going to react to us, and it's going to activate the card on the far right of its dashboard. This one is called Sharp Senses. It says the active player suffers the damage on the stance card unless they have a yellow in their sequence, which I actually do, so we're good there. But now it's going to go ahead and try to enhance this. The enhancement says the active player suffers damage times 2 instead of the regular damage. But again, because I have a yellow in my sequence at the moment, this one's not going to bite me. Super fortunate we had the yellow card in the sequence, so that one does not hurt us, and the one that comes in here is an end of round trigger, so basically this is going to be triggering very soon. I'm going to end off my actions phase right here because we have 2 cards left in hand or more. I gain a stamina token. That'll help me out on the next turn. And you might be thinking, well, that's kind of low on defense. I only have 1 in here, but I do have the card that is at the top of the discard pile, which is also stating right on it. It counts as a defense or dodge in your sequence for the attrition check if this is on the top of your discard pile. So I actually have 2 going in, which is pretty decent. It's time to make an attrition check. Hopefully we have exactly what we need to defend it. I'm hoping for a 2 or lower. We got it. We got the 2. We have enough to block that, so nothing damage-wise coming through. Now, because we avoided the attrition damage, my electric dagger can now trigger, and it says you can choose and discard a behavior card in play. If we do, we replenish the card with another card in the same slot. I have 2 that I probably should be eyeing to remove. I'm going to have to make a choice between them, though. Now I've got an interesting decision to make right now because 2 cards are going to be painful for me in the future and they're guaranteed to trigger. One here is going to trigger at the end of the round, which we are going into very soon. And then this one here is going to trigger in the future when one of my 2 characters starts their turn because they're in the front sector of the monster, and that monster is guaranteed going to be staring at them in the face. I assume this one will be the worst of the 2, but I do not know for sure. What's even nastier is if I take advantage of the electric dagger right now and get rid of one of these 2 cards, this rampage card is coming in to replace it, which essentially brings in a dupe. Like, in the end, we're going to have 2 triggering anyway. There's no way around it. The question's going to come down to which is worse. Now, I don't have to use that ability on the electric dagger if I choose not to, but I'm going to. We'll get rid of the card that was in the center, and we got a rampage icon in there. So the end of round 1 will trigger very soon. So I had 2 cards remaining from the end of my turn. We're drawing back up to our hand size limit of 5. We got Strafing, Swift Deflection. These are the 2 I kept. And we got Quick Reload. We have Hail of Bullets and Gunfire being the new ones. The monster's going to turn towards the aggro player, but all the cards I played in my sequence for Heleren had no aggro attached to it in terms of a red icon in the top right-hand corner. And it wouldn't have mattered anyway because it was already facing towards the sector we're in. So it's going to just stay exactly the way it is. End of the round ability is going to trigger now, and that's going to cause this behavior card to flip over. Oh no, this is not good. This one says that it's going to try and flee. It says, see the prevent the escape objective card. The enhancement here says it can spend 3 struggle, which it has. Players must collectively reveal an additional blue when resolving the prevent the escape objective card. This is not good. My friends, bad things are about to happen. It says, when this monster would flee, players collectively can reveal 1 blue card each from their hands in terms of the total they need. So we need 2, but that card that just came up pushes it up to 3 because it has the 3 struggle it needs to make it even worse on us. So we would need 3 blue cards in order to avoid this thing escaping. We only currently have 1 between the 2 characters. Heleren has 1. There is none on the other side. So unfortunately, this monster is running away. That is an absolutely crazy turn of events, and that's really unfortunate because I felt as though I was doing quite good at keeping damage down on my characters and even putting a decent amount of damage up to this point through to the end of round number 2 on the enemy, and it seemed like we were heading in the right direction. But you can see this is a tricky monster to pin down. It's easy to maybe put damage on it potentially, but if you get into these later stages and it attempts to start trying to flee, if you're not set up to handle those checks, this thing just disappears. And just like that, our characters are left looking around wondering what they were attacking in the first place, as there's absolutely no trace of this monster anymore, and they unfortunately lose the scenario. Every single time I put Primal the Awakening on my table and play it on or off camera, I have an absolute blast with this experience. I mean, if you were looking for a boss battler, this is one of, if not the best boss battler out there in terms of how many components you need to pull out to play the game and how much you need to manage, and also when you put it away. This is one of the most engrossing and also interesting strategically in terms of all the different triggers that can potentially happen. There's a lot going on in each of the character dashboards that you can work with in order to pull off some pretty crazy synergies between different items. You can assist your other characters. I didn't really get into a lot of helping one character with the other character in this case because we were just into round number 2 when everything kind of went sideways on me quite quickly. It looked like I had things under control, but a slip here of not having a blue card on this side. As you can see, I actually discarded a few blues in the final round there of this individual's turn. I should have probably held on to more, but you can see even the behavior card itself had that ability to enhance itself and put the criteria above the typical norm, which would have been 1 blue here and 1 blue here to avoid an escape. It actually pumped it up to 3, making it even tougher to hold on to that many cards and know that was coming down the line. But now you've learned something about this monster, and the next time you face it, you'll go into that battle knowing you need to keep even more blue cards in hand to ensure the thing doesn't run away on you. And that, my friends, wraps up a very quick finale. It was looking good up until it wasn't. And that's the tricky thing with this monster. You can underestimate some of these monsters thinking that you've got them in the bag and things are flowing well. You're not taking too much damage. Everything seems to be going your way. And then the monster vanishes and your scenario is a loss. So don't let this game lull you into a false sense of security, because it will certainly throw punches when you least expect it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, keep on rolling solo.